Most respected audience, dear friends, members of the public, and comrades, a very good day to you all. Today, I intend to present an interview given by historian Michel Danino to the Hindu newspaper published on 28th July 2025. Though a foreigner, he has had a long association with Auroville, wherein Sri Aurobindo Center is located. Pondicherry has its own history of creating historians. Academic historians have emerged from Pondicherry University, namely K.S. Matthew, Pius Malaikandathil, and Jayasila Stephen, who call themselves as members of Pondicherry School of Thought. But an independent center like Sri Aurobindo Research Center or the Auroville has created two important writers in the field of history, namely Michel Danino and Peter Hees. In this interview, he speaks as the representative of the NCERT, wherein he is serving as the director of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, where I worked as junior project fellow and started my academic career in 2004. Michel Danino seems to have been closely associated with Indology or study about India for a very long period, and he has given up his foreign citizenship and has taken Indian citizenship. And in recognition of his works, he has been awarded the Padma Shri award, which is the fourth highest civilian award of the nation. In 1999, there was a huge controversy pertaining to the Towards Freedom project, which is shortly mentioned as attempt towards rewriting history. 3 years ahead of that, Michel Danino has come up his work, that is in 1996, The Invasion That Never Was. We all know very well that eminent archaeologist Mortimer Wheeler, seeing these scudded skeletons, came out with the thesis that Mohenjo-daro was invaded by some people who might be Aryans. Then there were hardly a few sites, and therefore this invasion theory was accepted. But later, when we see the expanse of Indus Valley civilization covering thousands of kilometers, this theory was put into disuse. But Michel Danino has taken that as a great issue and has attempted to prove that there had been no invasion at all. And like other right wing historians, he is also trying to say that the inhabitants of Indus Valley civilization were Aryans themselves, along with the Dravidians or the so called Dravidians. They also resided side by side. He is using genetic studies and theories for arriving at certain solutions, but this has been rejected by Peter Hees as not grounded on linguistic scholarship. And Michel Danino has been said as historical negationist, meaning that he rejects what is being broadly accepted as history. But our purpose is not to get into that controversy, although Michel Danino has taken up several controversial topics. Another controversial topic of his is published in 2010 under the name The Lost River, on the trail of the Saraswati. In this work, he is trying to identify the Gagar Hakra region as part of Saraswati civilization. By and large, Michel Danino has worked broadly in areas of ancient history or prehistory, or can be stated to have worked on proto history as well. But here he is in defense of the medieval history. However, I do not find Michel Danino taking a hardcore and strong stand in defense of the methods adopted by the NCRT in projecting the new history books, because he is making use of the words hopefully, maybe, etc. in his interview. In my opinion, the central point of the interview is his projection of the meaninglessness of Hindu India, Muslim India, and British India. This division was made by utilitarian historian James Mill for convenience, and he projected Hindu India as a golden period, whereas Muslim India reversed that golden period, and British India is an attempt to rediscover the golden period. His kind of division was later adapted as ancient India, medieval India, and modern India. But archaeological and anthropological evidence point to continuity over change, and at several instances we have of living in the same episteme as Foucault would suggest. Michel Danino points to the violence unleashed by Muslims over Hindus that has been mentioned by Muslim sources themselves, namely Babarnama and Akbarnama. After stating this, Michel Danino also points to the fact that powers such as Afghans, Mughals, and Turkish people, they fought against themselves or within themselves, extending the theatre of violence from Central Asia, crossing Persia, reaching India. According to the idea of Michel Danino, when we are coming forward to accept the violence unleashed by Muslims among themselves, we are whitewashing the violence that has been unleashed by the Muslims over Hindus. He points to the experience of Germany. During the Second World War, Germany unleashed violence against several of the European countries which shared border with it. But after the war, they came into friendly terms because they were willing to face facts face to face. This willingness to face facts face to face provides medicine to cure the wounds. So, according to him, it is not bad to project the Muslim period as darker period, not only because of this but also because there were several famines and people died in millions. But while speaking about this, he is not referring to ancient India where the Oriental despots, according to the utilitarians, the Oriental despots coerced the people and made their life worse than in any other place. In fact, Michel Danino's standpoint cannot be accepted as realistic, that is, presenting facts face to face, as in Europe, is not possible in India because this is a sensitive land marked more by diversity, and people are more worried about their identity. One of my friends used to say that Indian history is written by politicians than historians. The kind of history that has been projected to the public has a strong impact among people, particularly reflected in popular media. Recently, a Telugu based movie was released, and the movie is named Hara Hara Veeramallu, in which Aurangzeb is projected as a dictator and he persecuted those who are non Muslims. It is not justice to persecute the Muslims now for their rulers' blunders made a few centuries before. Michel Danino points to the drain of wealth made by England to the tune of several trillion dollars, and yet they do not have the feeling of guilt. He goes on to state that England has not sufficiently recognize the type of exploitation it rendered against colonial countries such as India. Maybe Michel Danino is trying to say that in the history books of England, this exploitation of India and other African countries should be projected, and a proper reparation could be directed towards these countries only when the citizens of the people come to realize that through the history books. This may never happen because even the visa policy of United Kingdom is becoming stringent day after day when it comes for Commonwealth countries. There are two options in front of us: forgiving and forgetting. Forgetting is total denial of history, and therefore it cannot be entertained because, as a discipline, history should survive. Nations need history, and nations need people's history. If forgiving is the purpose of our lives, then amplifying of certain issues should be avoided, and that is what leftist historians have done. Michel Danino accepts that adequate space has not been provided for the history of Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan in the 8th standard textbook. When we were in our MA program, our professor B. Saragopan used to say that when there was a debate in Hyder Ali's court pertaining to an appointment, Hyder Ali appoints Diwan Purnaya to a particular post, only to encounter a question of his close relative, who said, rather intolerably asked, how in a Muslim country you are offering a higher post of profit to a Hindu? For which Hyder Ali said, who said that this is a Muslim state? This is the state of the Mysore people. This is the height of secularism and an impeccable statement for building nations, but this has not been given adequate space through which young minds could be shaped. And not only this, Hyder Ali is considered as one of the greatest military generals of modern India by British people themselves. Michel Danino states that we have not given adequate space for the history of Ahoms of Assam and also the Sikh history. I find these as acceptance of certain mistakes. Some 10 pages more should have avoided controversies because Sikh history is also very important for us to learn, as also the history of the Ahoms. Michel Danino, forgetting that students after 10th standard may opt for some other group, states that there are 4 more years for students to know about these great people and their history. But a science major student may not until last get to know about the exploits of Hyder Ali or Tipu Sultan or Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Rather, he will see Maratha hero Shivaji as one great crusader who defended the boundaries of India from Pakistan to the Deccan. What we can infer from Michel Danino's viewpoint is Shivaji has attempted to prevent the people from forcible conversion and exploitation of other kinds, and therefore he is a crusader against Mughal onslaught. For a question on whether there are political interference in writing history textbook, he just has twisted the blame on the media and states media likes stories like this. This is also in one way true because in social media we come across a lot many historical narrations which are not strongly rooted in facts. They are mere popular histories, and ordinary people tend to believe that as proper history. In such case, we have to broad base the scope of history to accommodate various dimensions and various layers and it should include almost every segment of the people. I had a friend by name Chandra Bose. He is from Sri Lanka. He served in Sri Lanka Open University as professor of geography. We became friends when he was doing PhD at JNU, and he during his leisure time tends to inquire about Indian history. And myself being a Tamil person often used to discuss the history of Punjab with him, particularly the revolutionary sacrifices rendered by Bhagat Singh. He could not understand how a person who has lived in southern India, the southernmost part of India, is celebrating a person who has lived in the northern region and gets to know his historical achievements, which has contributed for integrating the nation and unifying the nation. And furtherly, he used to say that if at all such a detailed history has been said in our curriculum, then our nation would not have experienced this kind of an ethnic problem. In India, history is a binding force, and therefore we should not underplay the history of certain segments of people and over project some other figures. With these observations on the interview of Michel Danino to the Hindu, I conclude my review. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.